Hi, my name is Andrea Murray. I'm a senior as well. I'm also a philosophy minor, so I'm a nursing major with a philosophy minor. And when I first came to St. A's, I had visited St. A's with a friend when I was a senior, actually one of Matt's good friends when he graduated. And so I visited St. A's with her because she was my neighbor from home. And when I came here on campus, I absolutely loved it. I knew the nursing program was so well known for hospitals across the New England area. And so that was a huge perk for me. And then it was the first college that I visited where I was like, I can see myself going here for the next 4 years and calling this place home. So kind of similar to a Lenny with the cliche story, but it's so, so true. When you come here, at least when I came here, it just clicked. And I knew that I could see myself coming here for the next 4 years.
Great. And Jordan.
Hey guys, my name's Jordan. I'm a senior. I'm a nursing major from Goffstown, New Hampshire. So I live close by to campus. The reason I chose St. A's, I think the biggest part for me was the environment on campus and the energy that the people had, and just the positive environment that you really get a sense of when you come on campus and you meet the students, and people just say hi to each other even though they don't know each other. And I absolutely loved that. I love the nursing program, and how everyone here really focuses on building you as a better person all around in every aspect. And I was really excited to grow with everyone here at St. A's.
Great. And last but not least, our recent grad. So Matt.
Hi, so I can't believe to say that I am now an alumni, but class of 2020, I graduated back in May. It was a very different type of ending, as y'all probably are familiar with kind of COVID and everything, but St. A's was able to really pull through at the end for us and for my class, and to ensure that we had a great experience, even if it was virtual and something that we weren't expecting. I think for me, the biggest thing that I still kind of can recall to this day is that first day when I toured St. A's. I'll never forget how people would actually hold the door for you and actually like say hi to you when passing. That came as a big surprise to me. Being from Boston, you're lucky to get a smile or even an acknowledgement when you're walking on the streets. So to have someone actually go ahead and hold the door and say hi, it was astonishing. And furthermore, it seems like forever ago now, but I actually applied to about, I think, 14-ish schools back then. And St. A's was at the bottom of my list at that time. And just having come to campus, I had a very similar experience as Andrea and Lenny did, from the standpoint of being able to turn to my parents and said, this is the place for me. I feel like at home. I feel like I couldn't really describe it, but it became more and more true as each year progressed, and the friends I made and the friends I still have today, even from it.
Great. Thank you all. So let's start our presentation. So Professor McLeod, well, you can share your screen and take it away.
I think you're muted, Professor McLeod.
There we go. Thanks. Just like class, right? All right, we're gonna start at the beginning here. Welcome. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program, and then I'm not going to take up a lot of time because I know that many of you are here to talk to the students and get a real feel for what St. Anselm is truly like. But I do want you to have a good understanding, a little overview of what goes on here in your 4 years. So we want to be able to answer why St. Anselm for you tonight. And I do want you to know that the mission of the Department of Nursing is nestled really nicely in with the mission of the college. And we really truly have a focus on the liberal arts. And I will tell you, whatever you choose to do beyond the college, a foundational education in the liberal arts will assist you in whatever your endeavor may be. So it's important that we produce and assist in the growth of lifelong learners, not just in nursing, but in life itself. And within that, we strive to maintain and portray and demonstrate the Benedictine values that are associated with our mission. You can read all those. I'm not going to read those to you, but I can say that from within the discipline of nursing, it's very easy to meet these values and to live these values in our profession, and certainly in the way that we prepare our students. So we're over 65 years old. The college inaugurated the nursing program in 1952. I think you'll see a familiar face in the lower left corner there. That was my clinical group with Eleni. And we certainly have changed in appearance from the upper right-hand corner there, where everyone wore white uniforms, to clinical. But I will tell you what hasn't changed, and that's really how strong our program is. It's evolving every year to be the best that it can be. And we've recently made some changes in our curriculum that I'm excited to share with you. And I think it shows how our program remains current with the ever evolving healthcare climate. So our Department of Nursing mission is written here. We really focus on evidence-based care, producing the nurse that can think critically, provide holistic collaborative care, demonstrate leadership, engage in service, and really pursue that lifelong learning. And for those students and I had all of these students in the classroom and three of them in the clinical setting. I always say to my students, if you think you know everything, you better not think about being a nurse, because you never stop learning. And I've been doing this a very long time. And many days I'll hop on Google and get on Google Scholar and try to educate myself on something new. That's the exciting part about healthcare. We're unconditionally accredited by CCNE, which is a national body of accreditation for nursing. It happens every 10 years. It's a huge process. They came in the fall of 19. I'm very glad it was last year and not this fall. And we were unconditionally approved by them, as well as the New Hampshire Board of Nursing. And we're a membership of key associations and leagues for nursing that I would encourage you, whatever college you're looking at, to make sure that the college meets these accreditation processes. Really important is to look at the college that you're looking at, their first attempt NCLEX pass rates. And we're very proud here that obviously our students do an incredible job. And I think that's, yes, because of the program, but I would say it's also because of the high quality students that come into our program and how hard our students work. We don't have 2020 yet. Some delays, as you can, I'm sure, appreciate with COVID, some people taking their exams or even processing the exams. So we're waiting on those, but I will say, so far, so good. When you come to St. A's, and Andrea happens to be my advisee, you'll be assigned someone within the nursing department to be your academic advisor. And that advisor will stay with you throughout your 4 years here. And we practice an open door policy here, where if you need to come talk to me, every single faculty member has at least 3 hours a week of open door in-office appointment availability. And really, everyone's just an email away. And it can be academic advisement. It can be, I had a really bad day at clinical, or I didn't understand lecture. Can you meet with me and talk about it? I think that's one of the many benefits of going to a smaller program, where you really do get to know your professors. When you're doing advisement, and I'll go through our curriculum, we're kind of a rigid sequence. There's a little bit of wiggle room in there for some electives, but we have a very strong program because of the way we've laid out our curriculum. We'll get you through the college course requirements. As Andrea said, we do encourage minors, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We also have a close relationship with the Academic Resource Center, which is in the Gene Student Center. And we have a close relationship with the academic deans who help us advise our students. We have distinguished faculty. Sorry, it's a little ego moment down there. That's me in the left lower corner. We have Dr. Deborah McCarter, who has a National Institute of Health grant to study maternal child health. And then we also have Karen Sheehan, who has received many grants and written many textbooks for the courses that she teaches at the college. Many of us are most of us are experienced practitioners and continue active in practice, are specially certified. Most are at the minimum have their master's, and many, and I'd say maybe half of our faculty are doctorally prepared, with some faculty members pursuing their doctorate right now. And we continue to be engaged in scholarship, which is critical to remain up to date and current, as I said, in evolving healthcare. So let's talk about the curriculum. So when you come to St. Anselm, there is a core curriculum that you will fulfill within the nursing department, with the exception of 2 cores that your academic advisor will help you fulfill. And I'm not going to read all those for you, but we do have the ability to make sure, and we worked with you very closely, that all of those are completed within the 4-year period. I would add to that too, is that we do have writing intensive. You're required to have 3 writing intensive courses during your 4-year course here. We have 2 already built into the nursing department curriculum. So there's really only 1 writing intensive outside of the nursing department that you'll be responsible for. Your freshman year, we switched this up a bit. I'm imagining these 4 students here are probably like, oh, that sounds good. I wish I had done that. But we changed it. We used to do biochemistry in freshman year. We're now doing that, fall. That's moved to spring. And now we have anatomy and physiology specifically for nurses. So it's moved away from a more generalized A&P to anatomy that's specific, that you would be using within your practice. Any of the classes that are highlighted in gold are ones that are specific to the nursing department. So we're really proud that your introduction to professional nursing happens your freshman year. You do have your first nursing course freshman year, which is a little different from a lot of other colleges. As you go through this, you'll note that some of the other requirements you may see a couple of times. It's just the movement of where you would go and be placed alphabetically for some of your non-nursing courses. Sophomore year, microbiology, you start with health assessment and fundamentals of nursing and mental health nursing. Now, let me just tell you that we don't have a specific mental health clinical component, but the mental health clinical component is spread throughout the curriculum. And as a matter of fact, when we went through our accreditation process in 2019, we were strongly complimented on this sort of new conceptual way of presenting mental health. So with the accreditation processors were very pleased with the way that we were doing that. Spring, we have a new course, Genetics for Nursing, that's taught by a member of the biology department. You have nursing research and nursing care of the elderly and chronically ill. This is the first clinical experience. And prior to that, you will be in the lab environment, but for nursing care of the elderly and chronically ill, you actually go into the clinical setting. And prior to that, we have a beautiful ceremony called Blessing of the Hands that I'll talk to you about in a little bit. You also have Pathopharmacology 1, and then junior year, pardon me, you complete pathopharmacology your first semester, fall first semester. Medical surgical nursing, I think everyone would shake their head a little bit about that. It's an 8-credit course. It is a demanding course. There's a clinical component to it, but it really sort of sets the groundwork for the remainder of your time at St. Anselm. You also have transition to professional practice. And as you move into the spring of your junior year, you start what we call the specialties. And there are 4 specialties: critical care nursing, which is what I teach, maternal newborn nursing, pediatric nursing, and community health or public health nursing. These are courses that you'll take 2 of them in 1 semester. There's 7.5 weeks each. So if you take critical care in the first semester, you'll take maternal newborn nursing in the second semester. And you'll complete those 4 specialties from junior year spring into senior year fall. And then after you complete all of these, your last semester, you have nursing synthesis, which is an 8-credit course and is associated with the preceptorship. and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. Just to talk a little bit about the minor, I emphasize Spanish here because we have a great program and work very closely with the languages department and to make that work. But there are possibilities of other minors, as Andrea can speak to, as a philosophy minor. Our clinical experience, as I mentioned, there's lab experience, there's simulation experience. We have a fantastic sim lab, and I hope you have a chance to either look at the video that we have that shows that, or hopefully in better times have a chance to come look at it. We do a lot of virtual simulation. These past, in the spring, we've done some the fall. If one thing I could say about COVID is that it's really opened up our eyes to new potential technologies, and we've been incorporating them into the curriculum. We have a sim man that we use in critical care that can, as all 4 of these students can tell you, can simulate just about anything. And last year, I believe we purchased a birthing Victoria, which is a mannequin that actually delivers a baby. And we have other technology that will simulate technology that the student will see in the clinical environment. And I'm a strong component of simulation-based education because it gives the student a chance to try things out without the fear of actually hurting a patient. So we learn a lot in simulation-based education. We also use computerized testing and remediation. We use computerized testing like ATI, HESI. We're now also working with PrepU, Evolve, and Davis Advantage. All computerized testing that assists our students in their preparation to take the NCLEX or the nursing board exam. We have a variety of clinical sites, hospitals, skilled care facilities, clinics, schools, VNA, the public health department, hospice, and I should have this up here, but even during the community health rotation, we have students that are able to go into the prison setting and work in that setting too. We have experience in all specialty areas, and I will say we're one of the very few colleges that has a critical care clinical rotation. So these students are in for about 60 hours in the critical care environment, which includes ICUs, the emergency departments, cath labs, OR. Our clinical faculty ratio is 1:8 or less. For critical care, that's 1:6 or 7 than less. Those ratios are mandated by the New Hampshire Board of Nursing. And in the preceptorship experience, students are placed at a variety of settings, and some at community hospitals, some at major medical centers, and some at outpatient centers. Students do a total of 196 hours. They are paired with a registered nurse and follows that nurse's schedule. This is part of the nursing synthesis. They will also meet in weekly seminars and do case presentations and group projects. And really, synthesis is just like it sounds. It's pulling everything together from those first health assessment classes, the fundamentals, all the way up through critical care. We do have a summer preceptorship, and that is something that many students are choosing to take advantage of. And if they do their preceptorship over the summer, they have the opportunity to enroll in a class called Utilizing Leadership Concepts in Nursing. And it's comprised of classroom time, and also they are paired with a faculty member to go into the clinical environment with them and help teach the undergrads. So I, for the last 3 semesters, have had a student with me in the spring, and I've always found it so beneficial to have like another set of eyes in there. And I've always had tremendously great feedback from the students to have another student who's been through the ICU and can mentor them. Excuse me, these are some of our hospital affiliations for preceptorship. So quite a few. We're all the way up to Dartmouth and down into Boston and into the South Shore. There are a great deal of service opportunities here at the college, both locally and globally. You know, things have been a little bit different this year, but we're hoping to get all of our winter break alternatives, spring break alternatives, and our trips with for community health nursing back up and going when the world sort of rights on its axis. For community health, students do have the opportunity. Traditionally, we've gone to Costa Rica. Looks like we're shifting over to Belize. So Dr. Pamela Preston, who teaches community health, takes a group of nursing students to traditionally Costa Rica, where they work in clinics and work directly with individuals there and are able to give direct care. And I've always heard tremendously great things about that. We have strong emphasis on student scholarship. We do have an honors program. If a student goes through all 4 years of the honors program, they write an honors thesis. And it is, we have a day where through an organization called SOAR, where all the student research is presented. This was from year before last because we weren't able to do it this past spring. And I was so pleased to be able to see all these students present their research that they've done through grants through INBRE, which is part of the National Institute of Health, where they are doing research all summer with nurse researchers in Boston and up at Dartmouth and just about any place else. I mentioned blessing of the hands before. This is a beautiful ceremony that takes place in the Abbey, and the students' hands are blessed by faculty members. The thought being, we are blessing your hands before you take care of your first patient. It's a beautiful ceremony. Family and friends are there. It's always a very special moment. And we are part of Sigma Theta Tau, which is a national scholarship organization and a recognition of nursing excellence. We are very lucky that our students, work hard and do well here. And we do have an induction ceremony every fall for our students, and students who become a part of Sigma Theta Tau are eligible for some wonderful scholarships, for some grant money when they're out doing their own research or, choosing to go to grad school. And our other very special ceremony is the pinning ceremony. This generally happens a couple of weeks before graduation, where our students wear their white uniforms and their caps and or their khakis and white shirt. Matt, sorry, no, you're not in a white dress. And it's a beautiful celebration in the church where they receive their pins from Saint Anselm College and truly become an Anselmian nurse. And here's a picture from a few years ago. The ultimate celebration is graduation, which I'm sure Matt can't believe that spring happened the way it did, and hopefully we'll be able to do something about it, and that these three seniors are kind of questioning how it came to this already. It goes by very quickly. So I'm going to open this up to the students, and I'm happy to take questions too. I think they're wonderful resources for you. So I hope you enjoyed that.
Great. So we've had a number of questions that have come in. So thank you to our, our audience for submitting questions. I know that a couple of them got answered offline, but we're going to ask them again so the whole group can hear that as well. So, and I'm going to go basically in the order that we received them. So the first question was, how many male students do you have each year? Matt had answered. I will tell you that, and I was actually looking at, while Professor McLeod was speaking, kind of looking at the last couple of years of admission numbers. We average anywhere from 8 to usually 10% of the incoming class each year to be our male nursing students. One of the questions that also came up, which I will answer because it's more admission related, was, how many students are we usually looking to enroll in the nursing program? Which is we are usually looking to enroll somewhere between 95 and 100 nurses a year. We accept more than 95 or 100 students, knowing students have choices, Last year, out of our 800 plus applicants for nursing, we admitted just about 40% of them to yield that class of this year that came in just a little over 100. So great question there. Next question for students to respond to. Are there any study groups or groups in general specifically for nurses?
I can take that one. Most of my roommates are tutors. So we have a wonderful building in our student center, the Academic Resource Center, or the ARC. With that, there are tutors and writing assistants in that center that got a certain grade, or they were allotted by the professor to kind of help with that subject. And so there are nursing students. You could have had my roommate if I were to stay another year, but unfortunately, that is not happening. But they put on wonderful little tutoring sessions at night for group classes. They can do one-on-one sessions. If you have a paper that you need to read, there's writing assistants that will just be there to read your paper, help you with grammar, help you make sure like it's all outlined. But yes, there are study groups that happen during the week. And if you need a little more extra help, you can do one-on-one sessions as well.
Great. Okay, for one of our other students to take. Next question that came in, do you have class every day, or can you design your schedule where it's not every day? I see a big smile on Jordan's face. We're gonna have her answer that one.
So a lot of times in the nursing program, there are classes that you have to take, like Professor McLeod was showing you. So that's kind of how it's set up. So you'll be enrolled in the nursing specific classes, and those are kind of predetermined on which days those are going to be. But you can kind of maneuver your schedule, especially later on, to have like Fridays off, or, you know, different things like that. Right now, I don't have classes on Tuesdays or Fridays. I have 12-hour clinicals on Thursdays, and then I have classes Monday and Wednesday, and I have Friday and Tuesday off.
So not exclusively, but sometimes it can work out that way for sure.
I think it depends on your schedule, semester to semester, and you know which classes you need to be taking that semester. And I think some of the classes change around based on if they're Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. But you definitely can move your schedule around.
But just to rule it out, folks, you can't set all your classes to just have classes on Wednesday and have the rest of the week off. I guarantee it's not going to work for you. Okay, next question. When do hands-on nursing classes start? Not necessarily clinicals, but maybe they asked like nursing focused classes, but when do you actually start to do that hands-on component that might not necessarily be clinical?
I could take that one.
Great.
So one thing I've always loved about St. A's in the nursing program is that even from the start, even if you're not in nursing classes yet, you're still always going to be in some set hands-on. So for intro to nursing, you actually can do a service learning component when you're out in the community before you even start clinicals or labs or anything like that. You're out in the community. So I got to go to Upreach Therapeutic Riding Center and work with children who have special needs and how they were riding horses for therapy. And I got to use the skills I was learning in class, like therapeutic communication and how to talk to parents and things like that, before I even stepped foot in a hospital or even just a lab at St. A's. But that clinical component with the labs, correct me if I'm wrong, Professor McLeod, usually starts with health assessment. That's when you start doing all of like, you go into the lab and practice how to assess a patient, how to, do a head to toe assessment, how to have bedside manner, all that sort of stuff. And that kind of plays into your role when you go into the clinical setting, starting your sophomore year, spring semester.
Great. Okay, thank you. Next question. Is it often recommended for nursing students to choose Spanish as a minor? And would this lead to opportunities for study abroad? Anyone want to tackle that one? There we go, Professor McLeod.
I can do it. No, we will work with you as best as we can for a minor that interests you. There's no preference for Spanish. It's just something that our students in the past have demonstrated an interest in, and that's why we forged a relationship with the Spanish department. If you choose to do really the only abroad experience would be to go to Costa Rica or Belize, and you don't need to be a Spanish minor or be fluent in Spanish to go there. That's not a component of it. So, I mean, I look at Andrea, who's a philosophy major. I've had other students who are philosophy majors, sociology majors, a psych major. I had one who was a theology major. So
Do you mean minor?
A minor, I'm sorry. Oh my
Okay.
goodness. Yeah, you can't double major. I apologize. Thank you, Tony.
No
It's been a
problem.
long day. But we'll work with you if it's feasible.
Great, thank you. And a follow-up question that came up was mentioning the Spanish minor, would you need to have taken any Spanish classes previously? The answer to that from the Modern Language Department is yes. You should have a foundational level, an intermediate level of proficiency with Spanish, because the classes that make up the Spanish minor are usually intermediate level, so 300 level or above. So you really would need to have a foundation in Spanish to be able to pursue the minor with nursing. Okay. Next question. Are your core classes such as English, math, etc., mixed in with your nursing class schedule? So I know we went over the kind of what the curriculum looked like, but anybody want to be able to speak to that from the student perspective, how your schedule works?
Yeah, I can.
All right,
So
Lenny.
it kind of depends also if you come in with electives. So one of my roommates came in with like an English elective, so she didn't have to take freshman year English. I did take freshman year English, so I took it my freshman year. Your math courses, we don't really need to take a math course. We don't have to take any sort of like language just because of the rigor of our course. You will have to take, theologies and things like that. So it kind of depends on where you fit them into your schedule and how you fit them in as you kind of increasing your grades. I know Jordan touched on it earlier, but your schedule becomes a little bit more flexible. So like for the past year, since junior year, I haven't had any classes on Friday just because I kind of made it that way with my extra classes, my psychologies, my sociologies, and things like that. Yes, so they are pretty much integrated, but there are things that you don't have to take, kind of like hinting back at that schedule that Professor McLeod touched on earlier. And that's you working with your advisor and when you think it's best for you to take it and what fits best into your schedule.
I'll just jump off that too,
Please.
because there's a lot of really cool elective classes that you can take. So like, for example, last semester, I took a guitar class for an aesthetic engagement, and it was really awesome. I like guitar already, but I learned a lot more, and it was cool to be able to have, clinical like Tuesday, Thursday, and then also have like a guitar on Monday, Wednesday, which was neat. So, and other classes too, but that's just kind of an example.
All right. So next question came in was, is the clinical process that Professor McLeod talked about, is it unique to St. A's? Is there anything that sets our clinical experience apart from other nursing programs? So I'd like to hear that from maybe Professor McLeod, and then maybe Matt, who's been through all of the clinicals too, for what he could share would be great.
I was just thinking the same thing, Tony. I think Matt would be a great person to speak to this. I would say that the most unique thing about our clinical is the critical care experience, that the 7.5 weeks in a critical care environment. I don't know of many other programs that do that. I think also unique to our course load is the sprinkling of mental health across the curriculum. And I think we have some really great placements when it comes to preceptorship, and we're so lucky that we're in this part of the country to have access to the Boston hospitals, as well as great hospitals in New Hampshire and in Maine. But whatever we're doing something right, because our students are, doing very well in the postgraduate life, and I'll have Matt talk about that. And I'm always so pleased when my students reach out to me after graduation and are texting me how they're doing. And I love the fact that, You really get to know your professors, particularly if they're your clinical instructor. You really get to know them very well. And I think that only nurtures the educational process. But I'm going to let Matt jump in here.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of great points. I think the biggest thing for me that I continue to see forth in all of my experience thus far is definitely the fact of the critical thinking and the holistic approach that St. A's encompasses, where I have worked with numerous people already, and I can already see, as humble being as I'm trying to be, I can already see that even the little things that we've learned, being like Professor McLeod was talking about the ICU experience. I'm currently in an ER as a nurse, and I'm still in the orientation phase in Charleston, South Carolina, actually. And just the other day, I had a intubated patient, and I am still working with a preceptor, and I later on told him that that's who I felt actually most comfortable with, surprisingly, because even though that was the sickest, most critical patient out of my 5 patients, having the ICU experience, that I can tell you right here, is very rare in the nursing field and setting. From the standpoint of being in clinical in the actual ICU taught me so much, and that enabled me to feel comfortable with that patient. Whereas most other schools, they tend to do just mid-surg and that's it. And having that critical care aspect built into our program really sets us apart. And having practice with those very unique medications that we're giving to those types of patients and the critical thinking, I still talk to one of my peers to this day about our experience with Professor McLeod in our clinical setting, about wishing we could rewind back to sitting at the nursing station, kind of going through each of our patients and really trying to like divulge in and really think, okay, what's going on with this patient? Why is that going on with this patient? And what can we do to help that patient? And not just simply saying, oh, the doctor put this order in, let's just do it because they said to do it. St. A's is really good about making sure that you're not just doing something just to do it, but you're actually understanding why you're doing it. And you're taking that next leap of faith of figuring out and kind of anticipating what's next to come for that same patient.
I would also love to touch on that.
Please, Ellen.
Matt. So I was lucky enough to have done my summer preceptorship this summer. And I was one of the few. It was amazing. And just like Matt said, I think one thing I learned, especially during that experience, was like those little things. And you never realize how important those like little things, the communication, the scrubbing the hub, and all those things that are kind of like missed over in like these emergency settings. And we come from a place of like pride and like bleeding blue. And I will always say that I will forever bleed blue now. And learning all these things with especially like the ICU, though I never want to do ICU. Professor McLeod, kudos to you. Love it. Being able to take those things and like the high intensity, being able to figure out the puzzle pieces and just sit down and talk and know that you are so much smaller than this giant world, and being able to help in that big world setting is something that I am eternally grateful for. And, being able to call this my soon-to-be job, even though the impending adulthood is scary, is incredibly. And I'm so blessed to say that I am coming from St. A's.
Thank you, Eleni, for adding to that. Next question, I can answer that really quickly. It's, do we do clinicals at the Elliott Hospital in Manchester? Yes, that is one of our clinical sites that we do some of our clinical work at. So next question was, I know a few nursing programs have their professors and clinical instructors be the same person. Is this the same at St. A's, or are professors and clinical instructors different?
I can take that. It's a little of both. We do have most of our faculty that teach in the classroom do also go into the clinical environment. So they play both roles. And then we do have a fairly large number of practitioners that are clinical instructors only. So we sort of blend the two.
I've had a couple of questions. This is a topic that always comes up during panels. Is it possible for a student, for a nursing student, to be able to juggle being a varsity athlete and a nursing student at the same time, especially during clinicals?
I am by no means a varsity athlete. I am very washed up, but it is very possible. I have multiple friends that do it. And once again, the Academic Resource Center, they do a great job of checking in on athletes. I mean, Andrea, Jordan, and I, and Matt also was incredibly busy with other activities on campus. It is doable. It is, you figure out what you need to do, and we have resources here. I don't know if anyone else wants to touch on that, but you can do it if you're interested in it.
Yeah, I would say that we work really closely with the athletic department. I have, so many students that are field hockey and lacrosse and soccer and hockey and basketball and volleyball, and we do our best to work collaboratively. If someone has to leave clinical a little bit early to catch the bus for a game the next day, we can make that happen. What we do ask for from the students, though, is to talk to us early in the course so we can make plans to help you meet your athletic needs as well as your academic needs.
Great. There are some questions that are very much admission related that I'm going to hold on to a little bit. But student asks, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, but is it possible to do a minor in psychology as a nursing student?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've had a few students do it. I think it's actually a fantastic combination of disciplines.
Next question we had was, will students receive experience in each specialty, or will they have to pick and choose? That's a great question. One of the students want to answer that one?
Answer that. All the specialties that were listed, you will have experience in. So for example, this semester, I got to do some clinical time in the ICU and now on the maternity unit, both at the Elliott Hospital. And then last semester, spring semester of 2020, I had my pediatrics rotation, and I also did, I did community health. So I was able to do all those 4 specialties that were listed. We also do the med-surg rotation and the geriatrics that were mentioned. And then following that, your second semester, senior year, for preceptorship, some students choose to specialize in that, and some people get placed in different specialties. So even if it's not one of those things and you're interested in something else, like maybe for your med-surg rotation, you didn't get to work on a cardiac unit, but that's what you really want, you can try and work in something like that too.
Great. Okay, here's a question that kind of got tied in about the core. And I think it came with somebody mentioning about a guitar class, but a student's asking, what is an aesthetic engagement class? So.
Yeah, so an aesthetic engagement class is something, it's part of the core curriculum outcomes. So one of your classes at some point has to have an aesthetic component to it. So whether that's guitar, like what I took, or pottery, or I don't know what you guys took.
I'm doing graphic design.
So different things like that. Definitely, we are a liberal arts college, so there's all sorts of opportunities to get experience. Definitely in nursing, really important, but also to have like kind of a well-rounded, education, whether it's, like the aesthetic engagement or philosophy or theology and things like that. You really learn all different aspects of the curriculum here at St. A's.
Great. Okay. Still got a number to go through, but they're great questions. So a question that came in from a student, is there a GPA requirement in order to stay in the nursing program? And if so, what is it?
There is a requirement, and I believe it's 2.4 GPA, and you will work closely. Every student works closely with our amazing program director, Karen Grafton, and yes, thumbs up to Karen. And as her job is to really monitor anyone that may be sort of hovering down that way, and talk to the students about it and figure out ways that someone would be able to get that GPA up a little bit, but it is a 2.4.
Okay. A lot of questions that have come in about clinicals. So a student was asking, do you pick your clinical sites or are they assigned to you?
I could take that one.
All right, great. Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, so your clinical sites are assigned to you. And I actually really preferred that going in. I had the same question going in when I started my clinicals as well. Like, can I pick where I have my clinicals? Is that an option? So you do get assigned, you get assigned your instructor, you get assigned your group, and you get assigned your location. But what I loved about it is that you get to go to so many different hospitals, get a feel for so many different places. So I've gone to Elliott, I've gone to Hanover Hill Nursing Home, I've gone to Hillsborough County Nursing Home. I'm now at Catholic Medical Center. My roommate has gone to Southern New Hampshire Hospital and Concord. So we're all over the place, which I've loved because you get to feel the environment of lots of different hospitals and see and kind of get your foot into different hospitals, which is great to see where you might want to do your preceptorship in the future, if that's in the cards for you. So you don't get to choose, but you do get to choose. You do get a say in your preceptorship. So you fill out an application about, I would love to work at this hospital. And be on this type of floor. You get to pick and choose a little bit, and you work one-on-one with Karen Grafton to find, the perfect match for you. So for clinicals, you don't get to choose, you do get assigned, but for your preceptorship, you have lots of availability to really kind of pick and choose where you want to be.
Sure. So next question, very relevant to what we're dealing with in the world. Are clinicals still happening right now due to COVID-19?
I can take.
That's an excellent question. No, go ahead, Eleni, go ahead.
Yeah, so I am actually in clinical. I'm finishing up my last clinical rotation, which is crazy. And so like Professor McLeod touched on earlier, specialties are half semesters. So you do 2 in 1 semester. I am right now in my community rotation. Well, I finished my community. I'm in pediatrics right now, but for my community rotation, I had a fantastic experience. I worked it was kind of cool because I started in ICU during like last spring, and then I worked into an emergency room for the summer for preceptorship. And then I was able to see the other side of it. And I went to an urgent care right in Londonderry, and I had an emergency room nurse who was like doing per diem at the urgent care. It was one of the best experiences. I learned how to triage. I was able to work with like my emergency room skills and put them into like even more practice and like gain on them in that urgent care setting. So I was able to go to clinical. They do a great job of making sure that we are in clinical settings this semester. For pediatrics, you kind of do a sprinkling of everything. Like Professor McLeod talked about, you see a lot of like your mental health things being sprinkled in here as well. So I'm doing my general pediatric rotation. I'll be finishing my last one next Thursday. So yes, we are in clinicals. So, and if anyone else wants to touch on that, please go ahead. But we're very lucky and very happy to be.
I would just add real quickly that we're so appreciative of the healthcare organizations that they allowed our students to come back in. And I'm in the ICU with patients. The only caveat right now is that per the state of New Hampshire, our students do not care for COVID patients or anyone that's ruling out for COVID. But at the same time, we have been 100% back in the hospitals. A few limitations when it comes to the nursing home and the skilled nursing facilities, but that's all with great care and caution, and I believe very understandable. And we'll see what happens. Right now, everything's a go for the spring.
Great. And along that lines too, there was a question that came in and said, if there was another surge of COVID-19, would nursing students stay on campus or be sent home? I'll be really on it. And answering that is, we don't know what the state would require, what the healthcare facilities that our students work in would require. So unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to answer that question now. We would have to make those decisions based on the guidance from the healthcare institutions that we work with, as well as the state of New Hampshire. And the college would certainly abide by any of those requirements. Are students allowed to have cars on campus? Yes. Do you need a car to get to clinical? So anybody want to jump in and take that on?
I can touch on that. So I think for me, I was an EMT on campus, so I had a car for all 4 years as a result of that. But you don't need to have one. I think a lot of my friends and I would carpool almost every single day to clinical. It was awesome because not only were we maybe a little anxious on the first few days, we were able to be together and kind of go through it together, but we were also able to share some very what I would call memorable experiences with certain patients, and you'll come to find that with each day. And that was always a nice thing to have on the way in or the way out, especially when we're all exhausted coming in or out, and we were all helping each other kind of get up and get ready to go for the day. So you don't need a car.
Okay. When you are in clinical, do you have to take other classes at the same time?
Yeah, so you do have to take other classes at the same time that you're in clinical. How it works is you're kind of matched up with, you have a class component that goes with your clinical. So like if you're in critical care, I had critical care with Professor McLeod, and then I also actually was in her clinical group too. So we go to class on Monday and Wednesday, and we'd have our critical care component of class, and then Tuesday, Thursday, we'd be in the clinical setting. And then along with that, I had my other classes on Monday and Wednesday as well.
So here's a great question for students transitioning from high school to college. When you were transitioning from high school and starting your college academics, did you feel like you had enough support when you were making that transition when you came to St. A's?
I can take that one. Yes, I do believe I did. One thing that I knew that I needed, and just being me, I like being busy. I'm better when I'm busier. So I kind of threw myself into activities and into things that I could be doing and making those connections and being able to form people that would help me and assist me. So once again, Academic Resource Center, we have a wonderful team on campus of health resources. So if you are interested in a therapist or anything like that as well, once again, advisors, you kind of find your professors too as well throughout the years. And there's so many different things that you can do, like the RAs put on events that you can go to, like little like calm down with them, little Zen events, things like that. And you're able to, like, it's going to be difficult, like it is college, it's going to be a transition. Every transition is hard, but there's so many different resources and so many different things to be doing that you get comfortable and you figure it out. And it's going to take trials and it's going to take errors, but each time you get back up and you keep going.
So next question, I'll just answer very quickly. Does everybody do a preceptorship? Yes. All students as part of the nursing program will do a preceptorship. What's the difference between a preceptorship and clinical rotations? How about Matt?
So I think the thing for me, the biggest difference is that you actually start to finally feel that autonomy and that independence. And when I say finally, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm saying from a standpoint that you're able to actually test those skills that you've been acquiring over the 3 years or 3.5 years and see what you really need to work on before you're actually on your own truly in the field. And for me personally, it was awesome. I was actually in an ER itself, and it actually helped to segue that I wanted to be in an ER for my future and in my actual career. And I learned so much, and it was awesome. And it really helps with your time management and just really honing in on those skills and kind of taking away what you need to work on your own time to become the best nurse you could be.
And I would just add on to that the clinical rotations, you're working with St. Anselm clinical faculty, and it's part of the course load there. Where a preceptorship, you will be going outside of the college. You'll be working with someone that has chosen to be a preceptor. You will follow his or her schedule for those 196 hours. Be checking in. We work closely with the preceptors, but it's a very different experience than being in clinical rotation is still like being in college, I think. And a preceptorship is really that, like Matt said, a nice segue into this is what it's really like.
Great answer for both of you. Thank you. Quick, is taking a minor common or recommended? I think you definitely would see that it's common. It's not necessarily recommended or required by any way, shape, or form. It's really going to be at that student's choice if there's something that they're looking to explore at that level. And if you're not sure, you can talk about it with your academic advisor. Is there a religious component required for students taking classes at St. A's?
I can take that one.
Great, thanks, Andrea.
So for our liberal arts college education, we require 2 theology courses. But I always like to mention that these 2 theology courses are very broad, very general. They're not just focused on, I know we are a Catholic college and we pride ourselves in that, but by no means do all of our students are practicing Catholics. Or anything like that. So the theology courses that you take, like I remember when I took my biblical theology course, it was looking at biblical texts across a whole broad spectrum and really analyzing them, not from a standpoint of like, this is what is true, this is what is false, but of a standpoint of like, what do you guys think? What do you believe in it? It's things like that. So even though we are a Catholic college and we do require 2 theology courses, it's from a very broad standpoint and a very seminar type style, which I thought was really interesting and really helpful. Going more specifically into nursing, we do like the blessing of the hands ceremony, but I like to think of that as more of like a spiritual thing for our students to do. It's not at all like religious necessarily. If you want to make it religious, that is totally up to you. But it's just more of a spiritual thing that your parents get to come watch you get your hands blessed, and it's just, I don't know, it's amazing. So I hope that answered the question.
I think you did a great job. Thanks, Andrea. So different question, haven't heard this one before, but great thing to know. Student wants to know if they want to be an OR nurse, would they have to go on and do more schooling after their 4 years at St. A's?
No, you don't. Now, if you want to be in the operating room and be assisting in surgery, yes, then you need to go on and get what's called an RN first assist. But your Bachelor of Science from Saint Anselm College would enable you to, it's more than enough to go into the OR. It really just depends on what hospital you're looking at and more what that hospital, how that hospital hires their OR nurses. But your Saint Anselm degree would be adequate.
Is there anything offered for NCLEX prep or that students do to prepare for it independently?
So all of our courses in general, which is awesome, I think they are prepping you for the NCLEX. Every test you take, every quiz, everything that you take is going to be prepping you for that NCLEX. They're NCLEX style questions and case studies, things like that. Everything that they're doing in each single class is prepping you for that NCLEX. And then senior year, so that big preceptorship course, if you don't take it during a winter time or a summer time, your spring preceptorship, there's the nursing synthesis, and that's where you take your preceptorship as well as a course on top of it. It's like your second part nursing synthesis, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Professor McLeod. And so within that, you're going to be doing a lot more prep for the NCLEX and your HESI as well. So that's like the graduation from like your nursing school. That's the best way I explain it. But yes, there's going to be so much prep, and it's going to be kind of sneaky prep, but you'll be prepping throughout your whole entire 4 years here.
And I will say what Elena was talking about with the HESI and the ATI. These are standardized computerized tests that predicts a student's probability of passing the NCLEX exam. And we will have our students take them multiple times. And if we are discovering areas of weakness, we have remediation where we will work with the students, recognize those areas and say, here's some specific readings you should do. And I'm always telling my students, hop online and do some NCLEX questions. If you feel like you're not comfortable with heart failure, go online and find some NCLEX questions about heart failure with rationales. And it's a great way to learn and to train your brain on how to take that test.
Great. So there are a number of questions that come in have been admission related. So I'm going to take a minute. I also want to be cognizant of our time as we're just getting past 8 o'clock now. But I certainly want to make sure that we answer your questions. So hopefully our panel can stay with us for a few minutes more, but quickly to answer some of these admission questions. When do students apply for the nursing program? Students need to apply by our early action deadline, which is November 15th, which is coming up in 4 days from now. So that means that your application itself has to be in. If we're waiting for other materials, that's fine, but they do need to apply by the early action deadline. You submitted an application 2 weeks ago. Would an interview with admissions be a good idea? Interviews are not required. They are informational and not evaluatory, meaning that if there are specific questions that you have that you'd like to learn more about the college, or you have a unique situation that you felt really wouldn't resonate onto your college application, you still could reach out and request an interview, and you could schedule that right on our admission webpage. On average, how many students apply to the nursing program each year? That varies a little bit each year, but the last 3 years, we've averaged about 800 applications for nursing. And as I had mentioned before, we usually look to enroll a class of somewhere about 100. And in order to yield that class last year, we accepted about 40% of the applicants were offered an opportunity to join the program, knowing that not everybody is going to join, that students do have options. What do you look for in a nursing application that would stand out? Honestly, be yourself. We want to learn about you. We want to get an understanding about what you're like as a person, what you've been as a student. So being yourself, being authentic really is the best thing that you can do for any college application. There is no magic words or magic thing that you can do that is going to automatically jump you to the top of the list. If there was, and I knew it, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be going around the country earning millions of dollars telling everybody what that secret is. But as a professional, admission professional for almost 20 years, working a lot with nursing programs, I will tell you that we want you to be yourself. When we're looking at applications, we get the question, do you rely mostly on academics? Are there other experiences that kind of enhance your application? We're looking at everything, but the most important thing to us is we want to be certain that you have the academic foundation and rigor to be successful with our program. But some students, some schools don't have certain classes that others offer. We know that. The bottom line is we want students to take the most rigorous curriculum that's available to them that makes the most sense for you to be in. If you have no business being in an AP calculus class, don't do it to try and impress me. You shouldn't be in an AP calculus class. But we choose classes that are going to challenge you, but are also appropriate for you to be in. SATs are optional now. How do we evaluate nursing applications? We're evaluating them with all of the information that we receive. So transcripts, recommendations, essays. The SAT or ACT was just one piece of information that we had used previously that we've waived this year because of the pandemic challenge, but it wasn't black and white that the certain SAT score guaranteed you admission or exclusion from the program. All right. So quick question. Somebody asked if we do clinical rotations at Tufts in Boston or just outside of Boston.
We do not do clinical rotations at Tufts, but we do preceptorship placements at Tufts. I've had quite a few students go in and work there. So most of the Boston hospitals would be preceptorship options, not clinical rotation options.
And I had a similar question. Somebody asked about clinical rotations in Boston. Our regular rotations do not take us to Boston. If a student wanted to do a preceptorship there, that would be an option for them. But we have students that do incredible preceptorships here in the local area as well. So it's not just that you have to go to Boston for that by any stretch. Couple of more questions. One more of a career question, not a college question. How easy is it to move between specialties once you're a graduate or that you're in the field? Matt, I know that you're, a recent graduate and just landed in an ER, but do you feel, have they talked about that in any of your orientation or had any experience about thinking about if you decided you wanted to change your specialty?
Yeah, so not only did they talk about it in my orientation, but also throughout school. I know just working with some of my professors and some of the clinical staff and even the nurses I worked with in the clinical setting, they all have told me numerous stories about transitions starting here, didn't love it, ended up now here, and they absolutely love it. And even Professor McLeod can attest to that as well, where she's done so much, and it still astonishes me. And so yes, the answer is definitely yes. It is easy to go specialty to specialty. It's kind of just all about what jobs are available and networking wise, who you can get in to get into that position.
Awesome. Okay, and our last question, kind of going back to that student core curriculum. Are nursing majors usually in the same core classes throughout their freshman year, or are you integrated with other majors in those courses?
So you are integrated with other majors in a lot of different courses. I've made a lot of friends in different classes that aren't nursing majors, and I've made a lot of friends that are nursing majors. For your nursing specific classes, those will have just nursing majors, but for other classes, different core classes, you definitely will have students from other majors as well.
And a lot of times, I'll know students that say they really appreciate their friends that are non-nursing majors because they also get a different perspective, and they, when you spend so much time together with your nursing friends, sometimes it's nice to have friends outside of the world, the nursing world as well. So those were great questions, folks. Thank you so much for submitting those. And thank you to our panel for answering and sharing their experiences here. So we'd like to, we're going to conclude our program here tonight. The other thing I know is that there are other questions that may come up in the world, and you may think of something after we logged off or tomorrow, or when you're talking to other students or a different program and you're wondering about these questions for St. A's. What I can't stress enough is please reach out to us and ask these questions. As you can see, next to my name is also our main admission email address, admission@anselm.edu. You certainly can funnel your questions there, and we will, respond to those, connect you with students, faculty that may be able to answer those for us as well. The most important thing we can do is make sure that you have all the answers to the questions and all of the information you need to make the best decision. We would love to have you join the St. Anselm College community if it's the place that you're going to have the college experience that you're looking for. That's academically and the co-curricular. So with that, I wish you all a good night. Again, thank you very much for participating in our program, and let us know if there's anything we can do for you in the future. Take care. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.